All right, well, if you thought that panel was sexy, wait till you see our shopping guys we got coming up here. This is gonna be good. Guys, try to keep it sexy if you can. We've kind of got a theme going on. So let's bring them up onto the stage, moderated by Eliza Kern, staff writer at GigaOM. We have Josh Lawson from the Ecommerce Group, Jennifer Grasso from ModCloth, Manish Chandra from Poshmark, Charlie Graham from Shop It To Me, and Jon Crawford from Storenvy. Welcome.
We heard there was a drinking game on the Twitter.
We're going to start off the beer panel. Well, thanks. Thanks so much, guys, for coming. So this is sort of a cool panel. It's sort of my personal favorite. Talking about what is social shopping. We have a really great group here. And actually, I loved the Wanilo keynote this morning, if any of you guys got to see that one. It was really cool, and Dina was talking about like, what does it mean to actually surface products and have a truly social shopping experience? And I'm interested in this concept of like, what makes shopping social? Is it going with other people? Is it reading reviews online? Is it finding products that other people have saved? Like, what actually makes that experience something that you do with other people, and how do other people influence your buying decisions? So something we're going to kind of explore, and I'd love to have one of you sort of kick it off and talk about what does social shopping mean for you guys?
All right, I'm just going to start. I think one of the problems we have sometimes is that we haven't defined social. So we throw it in front of everything, and then all of a sudden, we think it's all kind of inclusive. And when I say social shopping, social network, social media, if I take social off the front, you've got shopping, network, media. They're not the same. So I just kind of want to maybe define a little bit of that when it comes to shopping. There's so many different ways that people actually share what they're doing in the shopping experience that it's very diverse.
So I actually think of it, coming from being in the shopping e-commerce space for like 7 years, I see shopping, social shopping is basically where the other people are basically influencing your shopping decision. And I've spent a lot of time thinking about it. I think I've seen mainly 3 major areas where this affects people. One is kind of crowdsourcing and social proof, which is the ability of what's popular affecting people and influencing people there. One is actual individual recommendations and social recommendations where people are either curating or sharing things with particular people for the parts of promotion. And there's a third one I haven't come up with a better name, like social pressure, which is almost like the auctioned aspect, where just the fact that there are so many other people around you are influencing you to make that purchase first. And it's the pressure, it's the pressure of where Guilt Group there's somebody else has this in their cart, you need to buy it right away. So I've seen all 3 of those, there's probably more, but that's kind of how I see it divided up.
Do you think one of the 3 is like more effective in getting people to buy something than the others?
Well, in terms of getting people to buy things, a recommendation from somebody you trust is usually the best way because it's usually personalized, very relevant, very personalized to you, usually something you haven't seen before, and it's going to be already pre-filtered to something that is really important to you. With that in mind, I think that happens actually the least often online, where in terms of the most successful social shopping we're seeing right now, I believe, is more the crowdsourcing, where you're seeing the most popular items percolate up. And whether you're on Pinterest and you're seeing the items that have the most pins, or you're on other sites where you see the most popular items, I see that having the most traction. Amazon, people who bought this also bought that. That fits into this category.
I also don't think Jon Storenvy. I also think that social shopping actually doesn't end at the transaction. So there's we talk about how does social sort of influence buying decisions and force people to sort of add something to the cart and check out. One of my favorite things in social shopping is this new trend of creating hashtags for the products, and people Instagramming or tweeting or posting on a Facebook wall a picture of them with the product wearing the tights or whatever it is that they just purchased, and then creating a mosaic out of all the people who are happy customers of that thing. And like that's social shopping as well, because like now it's bridging the gap between the strange sort of delayed gratification of buying something on the internet and waiting 4 to 6 weeks for it to be delivered to your house, but then then the experience is back connected online with some sort of like community aggregation of all the people who are enjoying this one thing. And I think that that's social shopping as well.
Actually, yeah, Jennifer, do you want to talk about that a little at ModCloth? Because that's one of my favorite features of the site is going on and like, you know, you see a dress and it looks really pretty, and then people will post pictures of themselves in it, and it totally gives you this different perspective there.
Sure. For ModCloth, I think social is about collaborating with our customers. In every aspect of the business, we're looking at working with her, collaborating with her, incorporating her into the process. So she helps us figure out what clothes we want to buy into. She submits original designs that we'll actually produce. She even helps us name the items. We always have really amazing, fun names for all the products. She can enter a contest, and actually, if she names it, she'll win it. So one of the other big pieces of that is an area we have called the Style Gallery, where she can upload photos of herself in the clothes. So we offer a ton of products, and not every product is right for every girl. So she will upload photos, and it really helps our customers decide whether that item is right for them.
Sure. So I started before Poshmark. This is Manish Chandra from Poshmark. I started Caboodle, which was one of the early sort of social shopping experiences, much like Pinterest or Vanilla today. And then at Poshmark, we built a platform where women can shop each other's closets, and it's built on a social principle. So essentially, one of the things I think with social shopping that is really changing is with mobile, with everything sort of being with you on the phone, you can actually have a physical social experience which can actually be combined with an online social experience. So this sort of blur between offline and online is changing quite dramatically, and as we sort of think about social, it actually starts to make a lot more sense with mobile, even more so than online.
How do you think, I mean, maybe you guys want to touch on this, but how do you think mobile is actually changing sort of the browsing and purchasing experience?
So I'll give you two things about mobile. One thing is the actual search experience on mobile is shifting from a multi-set sort of search, which is more the way search is done on desktop, to a scalar search. And at the same time, feed-based discovery or sort of different kinds of discovery experiences delivered through prepackaged apps are actually becoming a dominant form of discovery. And that's bifurcating shopping in ways that will actually disrupt online shopping in very, very big ways. The second thing that mobile is doing for shopping is it actually creates the ability for a customer to discover anywhere, transact anywhere, and fulfill anywhere. And you see that with Apple Store as sort of one area, but it's going to percolate to all aspects of our life, which has the potential significantly to disrupt physical retail. So mobile is this huge tsunami that we're just sort of seeing trickles of it right now, and it's going to wash many existing businesses fundamentally, both online but also very significantly offline.
I think it depends on whether it's phone or tablet. I think they're totally different. So for tablet, she's browsing a lot. She's spending a lot of time on the couch. She's looking at really big, beautiful images. She's getting in there. She's seeing the texture and the feeling with the retina. And when she's on the phone, she's maybe has just a few minutes to kill. And so we have to be even more relevant, I think, on the phone for her. And we have to push content to her that she's either already looked at in another place and she knows she wants to purchase it and nab that item before it goes out of stock. Or maybe, you know, she's trying to make a really quick purchase, so we're going to push some personalized products right to her. So I think they're different depending on the platform.
And I'm just coming from, because I'm an online retailer, and for us and in our industry, we're seeing a lot of what he's saying. It's really upsetting a lot of things that were best practices that we used to do on the desktop for finding, searching, all of those things, because everything now is either with a swipe or a thumb. And you've got to really think about that in design. So a lot of our old sites that we were designing and putting together really don't work well for the mobile platform. So it's a lot of redesign for us.
What are some of the things you guys have found works really well for mobile discovery? Like, is it larger photos? I mean, is it a different navigation? Like, what are some of the things you've thought about when you go to design for mobile?
I think one of the big things in mobile is the velocity of content has to be super high. And that's why you see social architecture sort of scaling much faster than traditional curated architecture. Because the phone is with you all the time, once you sort of develop affinity for an app, you want to open it 20 times a day. any curated or editorialized experience is going to actually slow down that discovery, because 5 out of that 15 times you're going to see stale. And so social is actually becoming even bigger, and how you sort of create that freshness of content on an iterative basis is massively different. That's one. The second thing is every tap on phone is very expensive. So optimizing for tabs is the second thing. And then the third thing is, if web and sort of Web 2.0 distilled our features down to something very minimal, when you go to mobile, you got to really soak out the features. And Vanilla actually is an amazing example of an area that there's probably 150 players in. And the reason they're doing so well on mobile, even beyond what they're doing on the web, is the simplicity. And they've really distilled it down to very, very few features. So less is more always, but on mobile, less is really, really, really more.
And I guess you get to capitalize on, like, you don't have to be creating and putting the content out there. Like, you can let the user sort of socially create more. One thing I sort of want to talk about is the idea of, obviously, social discovery. One of the hardest things is, like, if you're browsing Etsy, I go on there, I know there are incredible things on there, but, like, how do you find them? How do you find the cool stuff and weed it out from things that you don't want? And, like, how social can tie into that?
I'll go. So when we built Storenvy, we have about 6,000 or 7,000 new products added every day. From right now we have about 42,000 brands and stores using our platform. There's so much content coming in every day that there was discussions really early on about creating a team around, like, looking at everything and finding the best stuff and letting it sort of we would guide the curation. And immediately social became the only answer to that question, where we can't create an experience that everyone's going to like. So what we need to do is actually leverage the power of the crowd to let people create their own experiences by sort of self-selecting into different networks or different following relationships. And Pinterest has had a similar, and even Twitter has created a similar kind of dynamic where the product experience is actually completely different based on who you follow. And really, unless you want to become, say, Netflix or someone and spend your entire life creating Google-grade algorithms, creating social at the heart of your curation is the only way to sort of allow the product to shape shift to every single user's wants and needs.
So I would go, I'm not sure I totally agree that it's only social. I think social plays a really important role, and I think your point is absolutely correct that crowdsourcing weeds out, usually takes the best stuff and puts it up there. With that in mind, as you guys probably played with Wanilo, it's not necessarily everyone's target audience in terms of all the different products. And the problem is when you get to popularity, you also have to have a lot of personalization and relevance. And you have to do more than just figure out the most popular for everybody. You have to find a way to segment out people specifically so you can have the most popular for the people like you. And I think that balance is really important, and it's really hard to get just right, but the companies that do tend to really take off in those different type of groups of people.
It's so true. Like, you log on to Wanilo, and I was like, I feel too old for Wanilo, and I'm not very old. So I was like, it's clearly hit like a demographic really well, but then for everybody else, like, how do I go on there and have a good experience where I find things that I like? I mean, it's definitely a balance that you have to figure out.
I think you hit the same experience on Pinterest for a lot of people. I think if you're male, you might have the same experience on Pinterest.
My friend has joked that I should go find a man who uses Pinterest every day and write about, like, the man on Pinterest. Yeah. Like, who is he, I mean, are they there? Supposedly, but I don't know, I haven't met one yet. Are any of you guys on Pinterest?
Our panel is a little bit of bias, even though we're talking about shopping. Most of us actually coming from clothing, apparels, and accessory space. So a lot of our discussions are being shaped in that direction. And in clothing, apparel, and accessories, discovery ends up being a massive form of engagement. So if you at a broad level look at it, 10 to 15% of shopping happens on clothing, apparel, and accessories, especially for women, which comprise of 80 to 90% of all shopping for clothing, apparel, and accessories, happens around search, and 70, 80% is around the discovery experience. So this space is inherently biased towards discovery. If you were looking at electronics or other spaces, it would be a whole different thing, and that's why discovery hasn't traditionally worked as well in many other categories as much as it's in apparel. For example, we have more than $1 million worth of items that get uploaded every day. So the diversity of item selection on a given daily basis, the freshness of inventory is massive. So our challenge is really not just social, it's really creating the right social graphs. And we are working on what we call the genome architecture, where we are deducing genome at the product level and at the human level and trying to create a cross correlation between the two folks. Because scaling social is actually a very hard problem.
I'd actually add, there's one more limitation when you get to clothing, which is, in order for discovery to work, social discovery to work, and people to want to share things, it has to be novel and unique, right? If it's not if someone's going to share the same exact thing over and over again, no one's going to be interested. If I shared you these black shoes, trust me, no one would be interested, no matter how many times I posted black shoes. And trust me, I follow black shoes a lot. Don't ask me. So there has to be more, I think it's a tricky thing that you have to figure out, that there are some elements of fashion, particularly like beautiful styling, beautiful stylish things, unique things that tend to percolate up and work much better for social situations than, say, white t-shirts or black t-shirts where it doesn't matter what it looks like, it's not that unique. So I'd also just have that caveat on clothing.
I thought of that last week when I bought like a printer cartridge on Amazon. It's like, do you want to tweet that you bought this? I'm like, no, like who would care, I mean, I think social definitely has a fit for certain types of products, but not every type of product. And like, is there a role around social for printer cartridges? Maybe not, maybe that's something you don't want to buy based on other people's, like your friends' recommendations. But maybe you want, a different kind of recommendation for those kinds of products.
Well, I want to just say something real quick. I mean, and you touched on what I want to say, is that if each of us right now in the audience went to our Amazon page, each of us would have a different Amazon page. So Amazon is into discovery of not just what social people are buying, but they're really into discovery of what I like. So when I go to my Amazon page, most of the times, there's something on there that I might just buy, and we have to look at what they're doing. They're constantly testing. They're the gorilla, they're the monster in this damn industry, and they're just chomping at the bit of everybody. But it's kind of interesting, the technology that they're using, that we don't even recognize that it's technology unless you sit there and watch that page day after day. It changes every day. It's amazing.
Although I'll also add, if you, like me, and get those Amazon emails, I don't know how many of you guys think those Amazon emails are amazing that recommend products to you. Right, there are very few hands out there.
Wait, I didn't know that exists. Can you tell me what do they just like recommend what you should buy?
Yeah, I mean, they probably have a huge team of people figuring out algorithmic recommendations based on social things. It's social recommendations is hard, and it's a really hard progress. And knowing each individual person separately is also really hard. I mean, it's one of the reasons we focus a lot more, instead of algorithmic, we realize that you have to ask the people what they want. And I think that's another way to kind of get them to understand and see new things that matter to them.
I think contextual is also very important. I think if you look at physical retail and you look at masters of discovery and cross-merchandising, it's a company we go to visit every once in a while called Costco, right? Imagine your shopping cart when you start going for toilet paper, and what you come out with is wine bottle openers, televisions, and that's really, in some ways, is discovery. Discovery, in many ways, is not just recommendations. At the root of discovery is creation of desire that doesn't exist. And that's why when you see the power shifting from Google to Facebook, when you look at desktop moving to mobile, really, in a way, search is intent that gets fulfilled by someone, right? And recommendations can actually help you fulfill an intent you have. Discovery is creation of desire, television advertising, Facebook. I didn't know I actually wanted to buy this, but suddenly I saw my friend doing it, now I want to go to Cabo. Or I'm missing Burning Man. I didn't know what the heck Burning Man was till last month, right? And that's really the power of discovery. It's really something which is endemic to our consumption experience, and it's very different. So discovery and recommendations are often confused, but they're actually fundamentally different things.
So in some ways it's more subtle, right? Because you see things that aren't necessarily like the Facebook ad saying buy these shoes. It's like a picture of your friend in that dress, or a picture of their vacation, or like more different cues, right?
Well, on Storenvy, we have this envy button dynamic, and that's very similar to a like or a pin or something. And so what that does is it just layers on this social on top of the experience. So if you search for bacon, you might get 10,000 products. I'd like to think we have a really high bacon count. the ones that are sort of you're somehow connected to are going to have your friend's face laid over on top of it. So if you see a page with 80 things on it and 2 of them have your friend's face, which ones are you going to be drawn to? And it adds a layer of just gravity and interest to those products that you wouldn't have otherwise. And you may not buy it, but it's basically data. I mean, social is a form of data to where it adds more depth of information to, is this thing interesting or not? But I think we can all probably relate to when, Spotify and Rdio came out and suddenly we were all following our friends' music tastes and it was horrible. So social isn't actually like a path to instantly amazing stuff because our friends actually have bad taste. So to your point, social, I would say, is a way to sort of create a giant computer that does these algorithms, but then you have to layer other kind of curation on top of that and help people sort of prune their social network.
And I was just going to say, I mean, I think for us, it's also about giving our customer ownership over the experience. And that is fundamentally social because she's contributing, she's voting on designs, and then we find that those items that she picks sell twice as fast as the ones who don't. So it plays into that in a really powerful way when she feels a strong sense of engagement and ownership over the experience.
I think I was reading something about how when people bid on something on eBay, even if they didn't really want it that much, like once they bid on it and start getting competitive with other people, like they'll go crazy and keep bidding just because it's like a competitive experience and they want to own it. And I think that's just so interesting that you could actually sort of create this, I mean, I hate the gamification term, but you could create this sort of competitive experience that makes people want things more, or like the guilt sales, that are gonna run out. And all of a sudden you have to have it, even though you probably don't.
People respond to 2 things, pain and pleasure. They respond to avoiding pain more than they do to getting pleasure. So in the eBay world, which I did for a long time, still do, but one of the things that were cool with that was that people would actually bid on something, and the minute that they bid on it, they started making room in their closet for it. And now the pain starts coming to the point where I gotta have it, I bid on it. So that's kind of why you see that.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, we have a question. How will eBay now change social shopping? Will there be a TaskRabbit specifically for shopping? You guys have thoughts on that?
A task what?
TaskRabbit, like someone, so eBay now just rolled out and it, you can buy something.
Okay, I'm just gonna tell you, look, eBay is not gonna change shopping. I'm just gonna say it right now. eBay already has changed shopping. eBay was the first platform that came online as a social discovery platform. Literally, because what you used to do is you would sit and you would wait for that auction to end, and while I was waiting, I was talking to other people inside of the eBay chat rooms. So that's really the beginning of everything social in general really started with eBay. That's just my 2 cents on it.
I agree. I think eBay is the first inventor of social shopping, as well as community-based shopping. I completely agree. I think going back to eBay now, I think local fulfillment and the last mile problem is a huge problem. And evolution of eBay now, not necessarily exactly how it's conceptualized today, I think will have fairly fundamental changes in how local retail happens. Whether eBay does it, Amazon does it, Walmart does it, or some combination is unclear, but having that last mile warehousing, fulfillment, logistics is super critical to the ultimate shopping experience.
I might be pessimistic, but I don't feel like that the eBay now thing really plays into social all that much. It's sort of like, is Amazon Prime going to solve social shopping? It's not. It's like it's a delivery service. It's like an impulse purchase. I think it's, I'm going to be ordering vitamins and bottled water and toilet paper from this place, but so I don't personally see it really having that much of an impact.
And I agree. I don't think it's going to. I mean, I think it's less the impulse purchase and the more the immediate need purchase. That it's, I need to wear this dress or this outfit for tonight. Impulse purchases, you might wait.
Of course.
But I completely agree that I don't know how much of an effect it has actually on social. And the only thing I think we'll have is people think of things as fair, as important relative to what the status quo is. So before Amazon Prime came out, waiting a week, 2 weeks for clothing or something to be delivered was not a big deal. Now 2 days is like the measure that everyone looks at because of Amazon Prime. And the question is, will they turn same day in delivery in an hour to be that measure?
Well, and Google just rolled this out.
Yeah, Google just rolled it out too. So now the question is there enough there that now people start thinking 2 days? Well, that's a lot of time for something to get.
Yeah, I think if anything, it's going to screw the regular business owner who is shipping stuff in the regular mail. But that's probably a different panel.
If you're not Amazon Prime, cool. Yeah. So one question, I think you can't talk about social shopping without talking about Pinterest. So I'd like to know from all of you guys, do you see Pinterest as a competitor? Do you see it as something that builds your business? And how is it changing, if it is changing, people's behaviors online when it comes to viewing, saving, buying products?
So people have asked us, because our new product with Shop It To Me threads, it looks a little bit like Pinterest. We are in a different space, I think. So Pinterest, I think, is all about inspiration, seeing beautiful pictures. And I think discovery a lot is awareness, even more than desire, to become aware of something. I think our products fit much more in the you are aware of it, and now you want to be notified when something new happens so that you can consider buying it. So we actually kind of fit in where you become aware of it on Pinterest, you get really excited about it, and then you can record, you can say, I love this brand on Shop It To Me, and we'll tell you when it goes on sale. Long term, I think there's needs for both, and I think Pinterest has done a fantastic job of kind of building that great discovery experience. I think when Nilo, for their crowd, if you guys look at their Twitter, what's happening in their Twitter history, they're doing a great job for the product discovery aspect for their demographic too, and I think there's a space for both.
Our customers love Pinterest. That is the demographic we serve. So we see it as a tool for us. It's a way to expose ModCloth to customers. I think it has shifted or trained customers to think about things visually and to look at discovery in a very visual way, whereas before, I think they just didn't have that outlet. And obviously, it's influenced a lot of us in terms of how we present product on the site because of it, and also in terms of how we think about inspiration. So we're also trying to think about how we can inspire the customer and through social, do that in a way where she might end up buying something that she didn't think actually fit her or could work for her style because she saw how someone else wore it and realized, hey, this is kind of cool, I'll give it a chance. And I think that's happening on Pinterest all the time, and it's starting to transfer over to e-commerce sites as well.
Has it changed how you design products or style products or like the actual final, what the site looks like? Has it changed at all because of Pinterest?
Well, I think a lot of sites visually have changed because of Pinterest. I mean, obviously, there's that grid that we see everywhere, which personally I'm almost tired of at this point, so trying to look at different ways of expressing things. But I think, again, we have to be more and more visual with everything we do, and so that has to be up front and center, and I think that is something that Pinterest has influenced.
What I can tell you about the design aesthetic, when we were designing the Storenvy marketplace, there were early conversations about, hey, maybe we should do sort of this masonry effect. And there were a couple reasons we really intentionally decided not to do that. One, we didn't want to be seen as a follower. We wanted to be a leader, and so we didn't want to use someone else's design, basically. But the bigger thing is that we spend a lot of time asking people and interviewing people and thinking about the difference between, say, Pinterest and Tumblr, where it's sort of all about the, let me scroll and just see a bunch of stuff and maybe something jumps out at me, versus I just clicked on a category, like I actually want to see what's in that category. I search for something, I actually want to see these search results. And there's just a gigantic difference in shopping behavior between be inspired, see this whole thing as one collection, or go through each search result individually. And Etsy wrote a big piece about how they decided to not introduce infinite scrolling because it actually reduced conversions, because it caused people to not spend time with each product on the page, and people didn't have context around how many pages there were, so they always kind of had a sense in their mind that there's something better on the next scroll. So they
it's like
wouldn't
item
stop.
fatigue or something, like you get overwhelmed. That's
Well,
interesting.
I think those points are valid, but I think rethinking a feed-based shopping experience is actually a huge opportunity. We spend a lot of time obsessing about it. For example, you have to be able to train the person to trap products as they're scrolling through the feeds. Most search-based shopping, which is primarily search and faceted shopping, has no training, no focus on it. Once you train them, in fact, we just did a redesign of our app, and the entire conversions actually went up by 50% with a slight change in the app. What we did was we have this thing called My Likes, which is really the way to shop on feeds is to save things through likes. And people didn't know that they had to do that, so we were getting a certain level of conversions on people who figured it out or who could find things. But by putting My Likes as a main prominent tab, it immediately jumped these things. So actually, when you look at feed-based shopping versus sort of multi-step search-based shopping, particularly for the phone form factor, doesn't work. Everything has to be tap. And so even our search is very tap. So just thinking that thing through in the different contexts and different form factors is a huge opportunity.
I like that.
We've also seen that incredible jump in engagement on the app. People loving things. We have a much smaller base on the app than we do on the site, but people are loving things 10 times as much because it's just easier and it's more addictive, and they're going back later and looking at their loves maybe when they have more time on their desktop or tablet.
Yeah, I think a key takeaway is to think about the channel you're going after. I think going mobile and a feed on mobile is very different than a feed on the desktop, and the actions are very different. You certainly don't want to, having someone try to type something into a mobile is really, almost, you will kill your engagement if they have to type things in all the time, and that's why I think the tap works and the starring of items, and desktop is a little different.
Very cool. Well, thanks, guys. I think we're just out of time, but thanks so much. This was great. Really appreciate it.